lives in Knoxville. Okay, years ago, we wanted all these children to play sports, you know, to keep them off of dope. And so they played all this stuff, all of them did, and my baby, my husband's 6'4", I'm 5'8", we breed big kids. So she, in elementary school, was like 5'5", 5'6". She was taller than all the little children and the principal and the teachers, and she hated it. But the good news is she's very athletic, very strong. So all over East Tennessee, people would call me and say, can she be the goalkeeper for our soccer team? I'll get her an iPhone. Yeah. Can she play basketball for us? She never played basketball. And you know, y'all, I lived through her. And I made her do it. And I felt like LeBron James's mama. And so she came to me and she goes, I'm sick of this. I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm not gonna play all this mess. She goes, I've decided that I wanna cheer. And I said, well, baby, we're big people. And I said, we don't tumble, but I'll figure something out. Well, all over the United States, they've got this thing called competition cheer. And it's kind of like, if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like Honey Boo Boo meets the Olympics, really. It's gymnast. They're gymnasts. And there's one in Knoxville called the Sharks. And they said, drop your baby off and she can try out to audition, whatever you want to call it. So I dropped her off and they ended up putting her on a bad Mama Jamma team because all the little children her age came up to hear on her. And somebody's got to throw them up in the air. So they were thrilled with her and they treated us like royalty. But anyway, they said, you're going to come in here twice a week, learn a 2-minute routine. It's going to cost you $150 a month. It's like, okay. They said, there's a uniform that you're going to order, and it comes to here. It's going to expose her stomach. She's going to have a tiny skirt on with a slit in it with a glitter panty underneath it. It's $300. I said, that's a whore outfit. And it came with its own bag of whore makeup. So that all the little children could look alike. And they said, y'all are gonna travel to faraway lands and compete against other little whore children. So we went to like Cincinnati or Atlanta. And we had to get hotel rooms and the gas and all of that. And then you drive up to a big coliseum, a huge coliseum. And there's tens of thousands of little whore children walking around. And my husband said, there could be pedophiles here. This is the awfulest thing I've ever, something's not right. Okay, so then they said, you're gonna pay $150 for your baby to be in this competition. You're gonna have to pay $30 to put a band on to get in and watch your baby in this competition. Somebody was selling corn dogs for $15. Okay. They start out with the babies, so it goes from 5 to 18 ages. So the babies come out in a tiny little skirt about the size of a napkin. And they come out to Beyonce's All the Single Ladies. And their little mamas are in their 20s. And they're not bitter yet. And they're in the front doing every move to keep their baby on track because they're babies and they need to be at home breastfeeding. So they move up throughout the day into my baby's age, and they're the reef sharks. They call out that name, honey, for 2.5 minutes. My baby throws little children up in the air, flinging little children, broken out in a sweat, working like a Trojan. Did you see my Spanx? Okay. All right. One of my girls said I look like Miley Cyrus in the Wrecking Ball in my spank. But anyway, so she throws these little children up. The little children she's throwing up in the air are the flyers. They call them the flyers. And they're freakishly tiny little children. I don't know where these people come from. Their mamas are freakishly tiny. I mean, I come from big people. I've got thick ankles. I can work in the fields. And the whole time she's throwing them in there, these little girls are going. And nobody knows why, really. So at the end of the routine, after the 2.5 minutes, the finale, everybody hunkers down on the stage, puts their forehead on the stage, and my baby is the finale. She pops up and has a little child's foot in her hand and holds that child's foot. I would put it all the way up, but my dress is tight in the back. But anyway, she holds this little child up over her head. Are y'all listening to me? I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, could you hold her up over your head or vice versa? I mean, you know, it's a big deal. So anyway, everybody went nuts. But she said, after it was over, she goes, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go back to playing. She ended up playing volleyball the rest of her childhood. But she said, I'm keeping that whore outfit. She said, I'm going to get married in it. But I said, baby, you know, before you know it, one thing can get out of hand. You've got your arm around somebody, and then you've got your hand on her leg. You know, things can get out of control. He looked at me like I was crazy. And he said to me, Mom, I've prayed about this. Nothing like that's going to happen. And I know he meant that. And all I could think of to myself was some of the nastiest things I ever did was at the Adams United Methodist Youth Fellowship on a hayride. I don't know what it was about hay that set me on fire. I wish it did now. I could get a new purse out of that. So they said, you're going to, for 10 weeks, you're going to do CrossFit 3 days a week, and you're going to do the paleo diet. The paleo diet is what God put upon this earth to sustain us. And he knows what we need. So it's lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, berries, and seeds. So if you can run it down and kill it, dig it out of the ground, pick it off of a bush, you can eat it. That means no dairy, no grains of any kind. But when they take you lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and berries, you think, that's not so bad. Okay, but no dairy, no grains. When's the last time anybody in here got off of white flour? Anybody, can you clap? Can you clap, or are you too weak? Anybody here been hooked on heroin? Anybody? I've never been hooked on heroin, praise God, but I was raised watching Shaft. I don't know if y'all watched that when y'all were little on TV, and they would always have somebody getting off of heroin. It looked like a booger. It looked like an awful booger. And I'm not trying to belittle that, but I'm telling you, I shook getting off of sugar and white flour. I was drinking coffee 24 hours a day. My teeth got yellow. I had to have those bleached. My husband said, you are so hateful. Will you please eat a piece of white bread? But Church of God Beacon, I did it, honey. We did it. And I mean, then they took our after picture. It took, 10 weeks later, and I I did not lose that much weight. It was like 8 or 9 pounds, but my body turned into somebody else's body, honey. And it was pretty cute. And I leaned out and I thought, oh my gosh. And so then they took our after picture and I made sure I got a spray tan. And I had a really good bra on and I took that picture. And I'm ashamed to tell y'all, but I won that competition. No, stop. I don't deserve to be applauded. I know y'all are thinking, oh gosh, Leanne, that's wonderful, but what happened? What happened, Leanne? I'll tell you what happened. I did okay for about 3 weeks and then I spotted a tortilla. That's what happened. Have y'all seen the goober mamas? The mamas that wear blue jeans to up their armpits, you know? I don't want to be like that, so I went to the Gap to get some low-rising blue jeans. Have you girls bought pants in the last 5 years? Oh my goodness, terrible. Okay. I went into the Gap, this beautiful, darling little 19-year-old heifer, brought me in a pair of blue jeans to try on. I did. Okay. The zipper, honest to goodness, was about that long. And they hit me about right here. And I said to her, I said, is my stomach supposed to be hanging out over my blue jeans? It looks like a small purse. I said, are my panties supposed to be hanging out this far out of the back of my pants? She said, no, you're supposed to wear a thong. I said, excuse me, miss, but I'm a Christian. I don't use my panties for evil.